or laws of Torah. So legally, if a man takes the time to make one written contract or ketubah with each of his wives that he is married to, ironically, according to the laws of the land, which does not limit, listen carefully, now the laws of the land do not limit how many contracts a man can make. Hallelujah. Hallelujah for the mind of Yeshua. In other words, if you want to go into business, you could establish 10 business partnerships, and the law of the land doesn't tell you that you're limited to one partner in business. And it's the same way with marriage. So if a man wants to make 15 contracts, the law of the land, any federal court, any district of any federal court will uphold that contract between you and another individual. Whether it's a man, whether it's a woman, whether it's a whatever. And it will uphold it as the law of the land. And it will take precedence over a state statute or a general state statute. The principle being that a ketubah between two individuals will always take precedence over a state statute that is for the general population and not specifically contracted between two individuals or consenting adults of right mind. I mean, how ironic. The legality of an individual contract or marriage ketubah gives you the freedom that local state control machines do not give you, refuse to give you, and that state licensing only allows the state to license one contract, meaning one man, one wife. See what's going on here? The state says you can only make one contract, but you got to come to them to recognize the contract. The federal government says, no, you don't need us to make a contract. We recognize any contract you make privately. Like the money that you have in your pocket, the dollar bill. Says this is for debt, public or private. This is legal tender for debt, public or private. See? This is legal tender for any debt, public or private. So when you make a binding contract privately, you're not limited to 1, 2, or 5. It's only when you go to Caesar and you beg his permission to be a witness to your marriage that he tells you you can only make one contract. But if you tell the state to take a long walk off a short pier, the federal government will uphold your right. Listen, the federal government will uphold your right as the law of the land to make as many contracts as you choose to make. See? This is the information that you need. Many of you need to honor Abba and to obey him. Of course, those who know that multiple marriage contracts are all legally binding according to the federal laws of the United States remain in the minority. As states do not want you to know that you don't need them. I'll say that again. States do not want you to know that you don't need them, and that the true laws of the land, the entire 50 states, established by the United States Constitution, says this, and I'm going to prove it to you now. In the United States Constitution, Article 1, Section 10. Write it down or review this teaching at your own convenience. Article 1, Section 10 says this. No state, listen carefully. Article 1, Section 10, United States Constitution says, no state shall pass any law that impairs the obligation of contracts. Hallelujah. Somebody ought to be shouting out there. I know the Melachim are shouting. I know Abba, Ben, and Ruach are shouting. Hallelujah. Somebody needs to be shouting out there. Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution says again, no state shall pass any law that impairs the obligation. No, notice, not just the making, but the obligations that are required in a contract between two individuals willing and of sound mind. Many who seek to have a legal plural marriage have made the grave mistake of running to the state and trying to get licensed through the system. This is wrong. This is the wrong way to go about it. First of all, it makes a state a polygamous marriage partner in your bedroom. As I said 3 times earlier today on this teaching, it's your husband, it's you, and it's the state. You are in a plural marriage with the state. That's the kind of plural marriage, the bondage that Satan wants you in. The kind that Yahuwah maybe has called you to. You are not in a plural relationship with the state, but with the partners of his own choosing. Part of the great deception is that the state license promotes monogamy. Part of the great deception is that the state license discourages or protects against bigamy. No, it does not. In fact, and ipso facto, the state licensee is a third party to your marriage. Those who seek a state license are involved in a perverted, unbiblical form of polygamy by making the state a matriarchal controlling element in any alleged monogamous marriage. All part of the great cloud over the nations, over the Gentile nations, that Messiah is now lifting through the end-time revelations of his word and his ruach, if you are willing to hear his voice in your return to Israel. Those who license are giving the state control on how your marriage should be conducted. And we know this is not the way of Torah. The Ruach HaKodesh and the Father, Yeshua HaMashiach, his Son, should be the one in control of your marriage. Ketuvah and contracts. Any ketuvah, any binding contract between you and any number of people, be it, listen carefully now, verbal or written. Yes, it's better to be written, of course, because it's easier to produce in the federal courts. Or in any way, but it would also be legal verbally. Or in any way documented that 2 or more have entered into an agreement is a legal and binding agreement or contract. So you have a contract between you and a woman to be married to you. You can later have another contract mutually amended to add a third party or a fourth party or a fifth party to an existing contract, or have separate contracts. Let me say that again. You can amend an existing contract to add a third, fourth, or fifth party, or you can establish 4 or 5 different independent contracts. Both are going to be the law of the land, and both are going to be withheld by any federal district court. And the states are going to shake and quake when this knowledge gets out there on the internet through the RAMYK Channel. This is the stuff they don't want you to know. This is the stuff they want to keep from your mind, from your home, even if you're monogamous. It's better to establish a monogamous relationship with a ketuvah, and then the federal government will tell the state to stay out of your business. Even a monogamous relationship should be established by a contract. And then if the situation arises where a man needs to take on more wives, for whatever reason or calling from Abba, Yahuwah, he can simply amend the existing contract or make different contracts, and it becomes the federal law of the land, because the U.S. Constitution says in Article 110, it says, let's read it again, it's worthy to repeat, no state, that Hawaii, Carolina, Georgia, New Jersey, New York, all right, Maine, Boston, Massachusetts, no state shall pass any law that stops the obligation or the performance of a contract. Are you with me? So, all who come into this agreement by contract are bound by its terms according to the highest laws of our land. I said laws of our land. Anyone who violates the agreed upon terms of a contract is therefore liable and has breached the contract. Federal courts will uphold the terms of any private agreement with as many wives as you choose to take biblically, as you have not committed statutory bigamy. I'll say that again. Federal courts will uphold the terms of your private contractual obligation arrangement with as many Torah faithful wives. Don't take whores. Don't bring Moabites and Ammonites and say they're your wife. Well, I slept with her, I slept with an Ammonite, she's a whore, now I'm going to teach her how to be a wife. Stop it. Stop it! That's not a wife. That's a Moabite or an Ammonite. We're talking about Israelite women taken as wives, loved, cherished, nurtured, encouraged, treated like a queen. like the head of a small kingdom, which is what the family is.